This might be the beginning of me defending movies. I was there midnight when Daredevil 2003 dropped. I was reading all the comic book articles, following any cool news to get any tidbit on what was positioned to be the next Spider-Man. Loved the movie. Was there at midnight at Walmart. I had to wait till the next day. But I was there when they dropped the director's cut of this movie. Mark Steven Johnson's director's cut. Loved that. And since then, I put this movie on quite often. So let's go.
Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
And my AKA Patters, welcome back to the show of shows. Peter A. DeLuca here, your film buff, and you're listening to the Film Buff podcast. I don't call myself a cinephile. I'm a obsessive film buff. I love movies. I love watching movies. I love bringing you my insight, my knowledge, and in today's case, in today's episode, my memories of movies. Because I feel like when you set out to do what we're doing here with this show, you want to incorporate every single facet of the film going experience. And some of the things I'm about to say aren't expressed a lot. They're somewhat memory hold, they're somewhat forgotten. So let's go. At this time, I was heavy in working at a New Jersey comic shop called Hall of Heroes. I was second to the manager, or owner, and effectively a manager of multiple locations. These stores were spread throughout South Jersey. The owner had friends, had people that loved him, but a lot of the other comic shops hated this guy. He just had one of those reputations, and I even had a falling out with him, but we later, like time heals all wounds. I see him, I talk to him now, great guy. I don't want to say his name just because, we know this show has a reach, and we don't want anyone brigading him or finding him on social, but either way, these stores, this venture, this retail venture had a position. There were local movie theaters that we would set up shop. We would set up a couple folding tables, and we would be there into a midnight release, opening weekend, selling merchandise, selling comic books, and doing a lot of the things people hear about today when they say, why hasn't comic book readership grown when we have so many comic book movies and cartoons and streaming shows? I mean, there's just so much comic book stuff out there. The iconic elements of these characters. Like, look at the kids section in Target. It's growing. It's not going to go away. But does that translate into reading comics or collecting comics? And this is a big thing that's happening right now. But that's not our point. But back then, we were able to recruit people. We would have the trade paperbacks. We would have some of the new issues of the comic. We had things to sell. Action figures, t-shirts, the list goes on. So a lot of times we would arrange these retail tables at these movie theaters. One of them was 5 minutes from the mall, one that had the biggest of all of these stores. We would sell, pack it up real quick, and then run into the theater to catch the midnight showing, which at that time, there was mostly only one screen, and it would sell out. Now, the midnight showings are 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday. it's opening weekends now started at Thursday at midnight, then became Thursday afternoon, and now they're Wednesday afternoon. That's how that those are the dire straits of the American theater industry. I don't know what it's overseas, but that's what it's like here in the U.S. And I remember seeing the buildings in the opening credits for this movie, where, it's CG, it's computer generated, but the buildings would rotate in this 3D environment and then pause real quick, and then the windows would lock in the skyline, the building would fade into darkness, and we would get Braille. The Braille language came in as our credits. So, and then, the Braille would just blur into the translation. And I thought that was so wildly original, so perfect. From there, this movie goes into a Joe Quesada iconic Daredevil on the cross on top of a church iconography, posterized. And Daredevil at that point crawls to the altar, bleeding. We know this is from his fight with Bullseye. And my jaw's on the floor. This is the Daredevil we've always wanted. This is the Daredevil on screen. At this time, they did a wonderful job in convincing you that they cared about this character, and you could see it. Some of the previews, some of the trailers would have a flaming DD. So the Daredevil logo would be, would be burned into the ground, but it would be the logo that's on his chest, the DD. And we see that, and we think of the Crow. So they were aligning this movie, and even now I feel it perfect. It fits. You can watch Daredevil 2003, watch Wesley Snipes' Blade, watch Brandon Lee's The Crow. Now, if you want to add one or two to that, you can add Dark City, and you can add Todd McFarlane's Spawn. Spawn would be the later one. But if you still wanted to continue that, you can add The Guyver with Mark Hamill, which recently became available on Amazon Prime, and I know that's a deep cut. But there was a time where heroes were dark, heroes bled, heroes had attitude. The three movies that I paired, the two other films I paired this with, Blade and The Crow, fit this. This movie gives us the preeminent Daredevil storyline, which is him falling in love with Elektra, and Elektra getting murdered by Bullseye in the fight, and Daredevil having to deal with that. This movie gets a sequel, Elektra, where she lives again. I always felt like there was enough gas left in the tank to do another one of these movies. So I see the movie at midnight, and during that time, I dated a lot of the girls that worked at the mall that came into the comic shop. Some of them were even the mothers of the kids. I remember seeing this movie once or twice within the next week, because you would have to do something for dates, and people would, a lot of girls, when they're into you, they will just suggest things, and it's easier just to go along with it. Because I would always say I am much more than comic books and movies. I would like to do other things, but sometimes you just gotta go with the flow. A lot of the people I work with at the comic shop seemed to like this movie. A lot of the people coming into the comic shop, we sold Daredevil, Marvel Knights, the Kevin Smith arc, and the Frank Miller trade paperbacks very well. And then, the internet kind of grows and gets a hold of this movie, and this movie essentially gets trashed. It essentially gets compromised with ideas that Ben Affleck is somehow a horrible actor and he's not good enough. Which is crazy, because this movie has so many good solutions. The Kingpin that they give us in this movie is the Kingpin that the Netflix series borrowed from how quickly violent he is with Bullseye. They just used that for the Disney Plus Daredevil Born Again, Daredevil revival series. And yes, it is a revival. This movie resonated so much that Elektra in this movie, when she is in Daredevil Wolverine, people were excited. People were pumped. And lo and behold, who's Elektra in Daredevil Wolverine with? Wesley Snipes' Blade. So we have this wonderful template. We have a position to adapt this character. We also have some inventions. Daredevil needs to sleep in a chamber so he can isolate his senses so he doesn't go mad when he wants to sleep. Genius. Daredevil's Shockwave, and the comic books tried to adapt this. They really did at the time. Brian Michael Bendis later with Alex Maleev. The Daredevil Shockwave to where when he can see. The way how they portray Daredevil's sight, even though he's blind, he has a radar. The portrayal of that, absolute genius. And when I say genius, these are the filmmakers finding solutions to comic book problems. I don't know, AKAPADers. I champion this movie. The world has turned on this movie for whatever reason, which is so wild to me. I loved it when I first saw it. I still love it now, and I do watch it. I'll watch this and Blade or this and Crow back to back whenever I can. Alright guys, let's go.
Okay, that's a wrap.